September 11th, 2001 was an extremely dark day for the country of America, which sent shivers on the spines of millions of families as they watched the events in New York City unfold. Today, over 20 years later, 9/11's effects are still noticeable as we commemorate and honor the lives that were lost during 9/11. 9/11 made an extremely big impact on the United States and has rooted its history in countless areas of society. A big example being sports, specifically baseball. But to understand how baseball comes into the topic of 9/11, we have to understand what exactly happened on the day of September 11th and what happened leading up to it. The September 11 attacks were a series of airline hijackings and suicide attacks committed in 2011 by 19 militants associated with Al-Qaeda, an Islamic extremist group which was led by Osama bin Laden. It was the deadliest terrorist attack to ever lay hands on American soil. The attacks against New York City and Washington, D.C. caused an extensive death and caused extreme destruction, triggering an enormous U.S. effort to combat terrorism. Around 2,750 people died in New York, and 180 in the Pentagon and 40 in Pennsylvania, where one of the hijacked planes crashed into the ground after the passengers attempted to retake the plane. The first plane, American Airlines Flight 11, crashed into the World Trade Center's North Tower at 8:46 a.m. At 9:03 a.m., the second plane, United Airlines Flight 175, hit the World Trade Center's South Tower. Soon, both towers collapsed. The South Tower just before 10 a.m., and then the North Tower a half hour later. American Airlines Flight 77 hit the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m., and then at 10:03 a.m., United Flight 93 crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, killing all passengers. While we don't know for sure what the exact lead-up and motive behind the attacks of 9/11 were, historians have agreed on multiple key historical forces underpinning the events of 9/11. One being the U.S. foreign policies in the Middle East, particularly its support of Israel. According to Osama bin Laden, this is why Al-Qaeda attacked America. U.S. support for Israel, especially the support it gave to Israel's invasion of southern Lebanon in 1982, first triggered bin Laden's anti-Americanism, which, during the 1980s, took the form of urging a boycott of U.S. goods. He was later outraged by the defiling export of 500,000 U.S. troops to Saudi Arabia after Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait in 1990. A second argument made by historians is that 9/11 was collateral damage of a clash within Islam. Middle East scholar Michael Scott Duran argued that the followers of bin Laden considered themselves an island of true believers surrounded by a sea of iniquity, and think that the future of their world depends on them and their battle. Furthermore, bin Laden argued that the nearby enemy which must be overthrown was the United States. American society was completely altered in the months following the events of September 11th. There was an unprecedented number of patriotic poems being written, which led to the production of large quantities of t-shirts, bumper stickers, and other items displaying the words, "United We Stand." An all-time high of 79% of Americans displayed an American flag, and George W. Bush saw his approval rating rise 35 percentage points in the span of only 3 weeks. American society had quickly become more united than ever before, and families and towns were brought together during their mourning. So then, how does baseball tie into the history and story of 9/11? Well, in American society, people often turn to sports as an outlet or a form of stress relief. This became increasingly relevant after the 9/11 attacks, as the nation of America tried to find something which would help unite them. In the case of 9/11, it turned out to be baseball, America's beloved national pastime. 9/11 took place during a major time frame during the MLB season, which was postponed for 6 days following the attacks. Afterwards, seeing the players back out on the field to do what they loved gave some hope and healing to the nation of America. In that time period, the New York Mets and New York Yankees became not just teams of New York, but teams of our country. Countless were inspired and brightened up by the adversity of the baseball community. The Yankees that year ended up having a historic playoff run following the 9/11 attacks. They made it to the World Series where the Arizona Diamondbacks beat them in a thrilling Game 7. Even though the Yankees didn't win the pennant that year, their historic season gave hope to millions of fans and citizens nationwide. Additionally, a big part of recovery itself was actions done by certain players and communities. A great example was Derek Jeter. 10-year-old Brielle Saraceni wrote to Jeter asking him to pay her a visit because that horrible hijacking happened to be her father. She asked for him to help achieve one of her dreams, which was to meet him and have him pay her a visit. Jeter acted immediately and invited the Saraceni family to the Yankee Stadium and spent the day with Brielle and her sister. A very heartwarming story for the public to hear. Baseball was a perfect example of how the nation of America came together under its national identity. In a time of great grievance and pain, baseball helped bring the country of America back together and promote an unprecedentedly high level of patriotism as we as a nation grieved and mourned the loss of thousands of our citizens.